All right, my name is Jack Ollick, and this is my glider report for AE 1601. The objective of this project is to create a hand-thrown glider that traveled 20 feet with these following requirements. It had been hand-thrown, fit in a 16-inch by 16-inch box, which was a problem for me because I initially just tried to make the largest aspect ratio of the given resources, but that didn't work. So glider had to remain intact during flight, and of course, by the definition of a glider, had to have no propulsion system, fixed wings. Primarily had to use the balsa wood provided in class, fly stably. The center of gravity had to have been further or closer to the nose than the neutral point, and the weight had to have been reasonable. To get further into this design process, I had to, of course, consider my requirements and my goal, and that then considering alternatives. So I had to consider the wing placement, and for my personally, I wasn't necessarily as concerned about creating a glider where the center of mass uh, was at the quarter chord without adding any extra weight. I know some students were focused on that, but I was perfectly okay with adding this mass. However, if I had thought of it, it may have been a cool idea to try and create a glider without needing to add extra mass, as it would have been more resourceful. For wing shape, I initially wanted the leading edge to be straight and the tail edge to be tapered. I found that in this article here. I took a snippet from the paper where the tapered trailing edges typically glide more in a straight line, and that was what I needed. However, when I went to actually start, creating this model, I realized that in ARI 32, when the software I used to design the glider before I created it, it was actually, I don't think it was perfect when I went to try to make the leading edge flat. So I kind of took that as maybe I should just do the leading edge to be tapered and the trailing edge to be flat. It ended up working fine, but actually when I went back again, as I'll mention here in a little bit, the performance would have been enhanced, at least according to the model, if I changed a few parameters and made that leading edge straight. So uh, that alternative would have been better. And then for dihedral, I wanted the aircraft to be dihedral, as we learned in I think it was our dynamics lecture, and that sinusoidal graph kind of where if the aircraft starts to get off track, dihedral wings help to become more stable once again. That would have been perfect. However, I'm going to skip tail configuration for now. Um, like I said here, however, I didn't go dihedral because I didn't feel confident in my manufacturing skills to create the wings in such a way where the angle for both wings was perfectly the exact same. Because I felt like when I created it, one would be different than the other, and that would cause it to spiral. So I just played it safe, and went like this. And then the wing shape, of course, like I said earlier, if I had really uh, been more outgoing or taken that risk in Area 32, it could have performed better. So for sizing, like I said, I used Area 32 to change the parameters of the wing size, wingspan, fuselage length, for stabilizer size, and I started off by trying to make it a little bit smaller of a glider because I heard from past students that those typically performed better. But yeah, initial design, as you can see here, the leading edge is flat, tailing edge is tapered, and for the stabilizers, I actually had a X kind of shape between the horizontal and vertical stabilizers. I decided not to go with that because when I created my model, which is broken and threw away already, but when I created my initial cardboard model, I think I have a picture of it. Um, it added a lot more weight because the adhesive on the back, and I didn't want that, so I just went, played it safe like this with the horizontal stabilizer at the bottom. For longitudinal stability, as we learned in class, center of gravity has to be closer to the nose of the aircraft than the neutral point, and this was approximated by taking the aircraft, placing it on my finger, and determining where that center of mass or the center of gravity was. I determined it to be right about there. So that is about the quarter chord, maybe a little bit, give or take a half a centimeter. Um, yeah, it fell because I think one of the wings is messed up. But lift and drag coefficient, so we have mass, area of one of the wings, uh, um, wingspan, and then we use these values along with the average velocity from my trials to get the lift coefficient from this equation, plugging that into the induced drag equation to get this number, and then finally the drag coefficient is 0.0066. Next up, I'll focus on each of my design iterations. Here's my prototype, as I mentioned I'd show earlier. Tapered leading edge, straight tailing edge. Angle of incidence here is 0, which is key to note. It flew around 15 to 20 feet, so it was not great. I think partially because this back here was a little too heavy. So, but when I forgot to take an initial video of it. However, I did go back afterwards and I tried to recreate it, so I'll show that now. Once I got a better idea of how to actually throw the plane and some key components of like the horizontal vertical stabilizers, I began to construct a balsa wood model. And it wasn't permanent at first, it was mostly made out of tape. And this one, in contrary to the prototype, I had a tapered trailing edge instead of the leading edge. The horizontal stabilizer in this model one was actually below the vertical stabilizer as it is here. In this one, you can't really see that. However, it's behind my left hand in this photo. Initially, there was no angle of incidence. However, once I flew it like that, I got the idea to add the angle of incidence, which I actually kept. And you could see it here, actually, where my cursor is, because when I flew it, there was a little bit more of an angle of attack, I suppose, and so the glider would stay in the air longer and fly further. And so that was kind of my main improvement for this project once it was already, the aircraft was constructed. And unfortunately, I don't have a video of this flight. However, it did fly approximately 40 to 50 feet outside of the AMS. And then finally, the big guy, the final design, I had this tapered leading edge here. The angle of incidence is about 6.65 degrees, like that. And I practiced different throwing methods, adding different weights, and I was getting consistently around 50 to 60 feet or so in my throws. Here's my final design in a box. Does fit. In summary, I did learn a lot about what it takes to design something, the whole design process from conceiving an idea to researching different factors that can contribute to reaching your goal, and then ultimately experimenting with different production techniques, designs. And these are all ideas that were mentioned in our introduction lecture for 1601. I additionally learned some new insights into the fundamentals of flight. And if I were to do this again, I'd say I'd make the wings dihedral, make the leading edge straight, trailing edge tapered. And in the end, the glider flew around 70 feet on test day, and it got second place in my group, so that was pretty cool. Here's the film.
Bro!
Oi, oi, oi.
Oh yeah, Charlie! Oh yeah, Charlie!
Here are my sources for the content and my images cited.